So to sit down like on a cold winter night, even make a cup of coffee, turn on a horror movie, turn the lights out, and just sit there and sip. It's just, I just correlate the two together. And what's even better than watching one of your favorite movie franchises while drinking the coffee of the actual franchise too, right? So it's like, it's kind of cool there as well. It's like a really cool tie-in. Dead Sled as a brand started a little over 5 years ago. We turned 5 years old this past June. And when we first launched the company, it was more so we wanted to do something special because there's so many coffee companies out there. And to compete and to get noticed, you have to be special and you have to do something special. So we're like, well, what do we love? So let's combine our love for horror movies with our love of heavy metal and our love of coffee. Let's put it together in a brand. And and we also wanted to be a safe space for people. We wanted to create something for people regardless of their knowledge of coffee, right? So we don't care if you're a snob, we don't care if you pour sugar and cream, and it's just we want it to be a comfort zone for everybody, like within our genre, because a lot of times like people are looked at as outcasts, and I myself have always been kind of an outcast, so to speak. So we just wanted to create that environment for people. So that's where we came up with the idea for the brand of Dead Sled Coffee. Actually, one of the other founders of the company, Diana, she is the one that came up with the name. So we always associated Dead Sled with hearses. You know what I mean? Even though it's more kind of like a hot rod thing. So that was just kind of like her idea, was to create this thing and call it Dead Sled Coffee. Well, from the second that they hit our website to the moment they make that first cup of coffee is, we want them to have one of the greatest experiences they've ever had when it comes to coffee, right? So we want them to be able to not only have a great cup of coffee, but put that bag up on their shelf as almost like a decorative item, right? So we aim to do craft coffee, not just a bunch of mass-produced cheap stuff. All of our coffee is fair trade, organic, vegan friendly. It's very high quality craft coffee, but we also wanted to put that little twist on it to do really cool packaging, because myself as a horror fan, I love this stuff. I mean, if you can see my whole office right now, this is a laptop. I have stuff hanging all over the walls and horror things. It's just, I love, I actually frame our bags and I hang them on my walls in my office. So, people love them as decorative pieces. We actually have customers that don't drink coffee and they buy them just for the bag. We have to reach out to the owner of the license, obviously. A lot of times they'll just reach out to us. Some people have actually messaged us and be like, hey, we love what you're doing. Whether it be a band, whether it be a property owner, they're like, have you ever thought about doing this movie or this band? And it has to fit within our world, like regardless, right? It's just, we're not going to do a Taylor Swift coffee ever. So when it comes to the blend, it's all up to the person that we're working with, right? So if they are coffee aficionados, a lot of times they love to do the sampling themselves. A perfect example of that is Rob Zombie. Rob and his wife taste tested all of their coffees. We sent them like 5 or 6 samples. They picked the one that they liked the best. And then as far as the packaging goes, a lot of times they'll provide the assets. A lot of times we'll hire an artist to draw the bags and get all the assets over to me. And then I put the bag together in our template, you know what I mean? And then I add the little tricks of the trade to make it look pretty cool, and that's it. And as far as picking the flavors and the blends, it just depends upon what the actual coffee is. That's a loaded question. It's kind of tough to explain a little bit, right? So to me, coming together with the horror movies, just horror movies is my favorite genre. It's just, I love it. I've always loved it since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like it's, when people were at the fair, the carnival, they were winning posters of like a band. I was winning posters of like A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know what I mean? They were hanging all over my walls. And I can watch horror movies any time of the day, whether it be first thing in the morning, and I just associate it with sitting down, turning on a movie, because there's nothing better than that first sip of coffee of the day. So to sit down like on a cold winter night, even make a cup of coffee, turn on a horror movie, turn the lights out, and just sit there and sip. It's just, I just correlate the two together. And what's even better than watching one of your favorite movie franchises while drinking the coffee of the actual franchise too, right? So it's like, it's kind of cool there as well. It's like a really cool tie-in. But everybody has their own experiences with it too. I believe coffee to be a very personal experience. Everybody looks at it differently. Everybody drinks it differently. Some people just drink it really quick to get going. Some people really enjoy the taste of coffee. I am both. I do it for the caffeine, but I also love sipping a delicious cup of coffee, and if there's a horror movie playing in the background with it, even better. A Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorite franchises of all time, ever since I was a kid. You know what I mean? It's just, I've always loved the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Always been a huge Robert Englund fan. So it's two separate deals, right? So we had a deal with Robert Englund to do a coffee just based on him. And then I got the Warner Brothers license deal, which gave us A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Beetlejuice, House of the Dragon, and It, Chapter 1 and 2. Because those are just some of my favorite movies. And when I looked at the list of Warner Brothers, I'm like, the first one I pointed out was A Nightmare on Elm Street. It was just like, I got to do it. I have to do a coffee for one of my favorite franchises of all time. So that's where that came. And Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies. So it just kind of made sense, and we picked all that. It was actually Warner Brothers that pitched us on House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. We didn't even ask for it. They pitched us on it. So the Ghostface coffee, a red candy apple. I actually opened up ChatGPT and I typed in, give me I forget what I said, give me 7 or 8 flavors that are associated with the Scream franchise. And it kicked back like popcorn, things like that. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to make a popcorn flavored coffee. But one of the suggestions was red candy apple. I went to our flavor lab and I'm like, hey, can we do this flavor? And they said, absolutely. And then it was born. And I know RJ for the other one, for the Colombian blend, he told me the specific coffee that he likes. So instead of copying that, we got as close as possible, but we also wanted it to be our own blend as well. We didn't want to copy another company, but he let us know what he liked. And we made a coffee based on that. And then the red candy apple was literally given to me by ChatGPT. We'll just start with the red candy apple, right? So I did that stuff with ChatGPT, but I wasn't sure, right? I wasn't sure how I was going to come across on coffee. I was like, the name might scare people away or it might intrigue them. I don't know. But once it started going out to people and I sampled it, it's been getting nothing but rave reviews. It actually is a much better seller than just 100% Colombian bag. It sells much more. And once it started to get into people's hands, they fell in love with it. Like, so many comments and messages were like, I never thought it was going to be good, but it's delicious. It's because it's not overpowering. You still get coffee, but you can still get that red candy apple taste. It just makes it a little sweet, And as far as the Colombian goes, they both sell very well. I underestimated the power of Ghostface a little bit. It's just a very beloved character. And I've obviously always loved the Scream franchise, but I don't think I understood how much people love Ghostface and love the Scream franchise. He's very protective of the Ghostface brand, which he should be. It's a great thing. You know what I mean? So like every time there was an update to the artwork, I had to send it over to him. He took a look at it and he would pick something out. He's like, well, what's this little crinkle here? What's this mark here? Let's get rid of that. That's, and he was very involved. He was one of the more involved ones out of all the copies that we've ever done. And honestly, I prefer that because it makes a much better product. And who knows Ghostface better than RJ, right? So right. to get his input, to get his critiques, I wouldn't want it from anybody else. You know what I mean? Like I would rather him be very meticulous and do 100 corrections to get it perfect versus somebody just going, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Because good enough is never good for me. I want it to be the best that something can possibly be. This coffee, which was named by RJ, by the way, pumpkin slice was his idea, and I was asking some of my friends who are big like pumpkin spice drinkers, right? So me personally, I'm not a big pumpkin drinker. I'm really not. Like I love hazelnut, but I'm not a big pumpkin person. Unless it's pumpkin pie, then I love that. But so I was texting just my friends. I'm like, hey, I'm like, I know you like pumpkin spice. I'm like, what kind of creamer do you put in it? Like, how do you, make it? Like, what do you love? And honestly, a great friend of mine, she texted me and she's like, her name's Morgan. She goes, you want to know what I get at the coffee shop sometimes? She goes, I get pumpkin coffee with hazelnut creamer. And she's like, it's delicious. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's freaking do let's do a blend of pumpkin, hazelnut. It's going to be great. It's a flavor we've never done. And also what's great about this bag is that it's limited to 500 bags only. That's it. Once the 500 are gone, they're gone. They'll never be back. It's a 2023 limited edition Halloween bag. It even says it on the bag, limited edition Halloween 2023, so there's only 500 available. Actually a few are already gone because I sent them out to RJ, so there's gonna be less than 500 left when it goes on sale. I plan on launching, I want to do one around the holidays. Not sure about flavors. I haven't got into that far yet, but I want to do one for the holidays. I want to do one for alongside of the new one when it releases. In my opinion, almost like, so one of my favorite horror shirt companies on the planet is Cavity Colors, right? I love Aaron and all those guys there. We almost want to do it like, almost kind of like how they do it. They'll launch a collection of 3 shirts, joggers, and like a hoodie. That's kind of like our concept. We want people to go to deadsledcoffee.com/Ghostface and see an entire collection of bags. I will selectively choose when to launch, what to launch it alongside something, maybe the green Ghostface mask for St. Patrick's Day, something like that. You know what I mean? And do like a really cool flavor like associated with that. And that's another way that I pick flavors too. It's like, well, what's good for St. Patrick's Day? Irish cream or something like that. Do like a cool coffee like that with the green mask. It makes sense, I prefer whole bean. I am like what you call a coffee snob. So you're always going to get the freshest cup of coffee from a whole beans, from grinding it yourself. Because obviously when the coffee's already ground, it's going to dry out faster. It still lasts quite a while, but It's going to dry out faster. It's going to lose that strength and that lackluster flavor being pre-ground and sitting around, especially if you're not a heavy coffee drinker. Like, I know people that buy like one bag a month, right? Like, I go through a bag a week, basically, you know? So I could probably get away with drinking grounds, because I drink coffee so often that it'll never have a chance to sit around. But I 100% whole, you know, I prefer whole bean. And just a little trick of the trade, if you are, you can put your coffee in a freezer, never in the fridge because it dries it out, but you can keep it in the freezer and it'll stay longer. I know how I like my coffee, right? So everybody has their own method, whether it just be a regular drip maker or an espresso machine. I always prefer espresso, regardless of the bean. So we actually have one here in the office that just says single shots. I just pour in a cup of beans, fresh. I use spring water. I highly recommend to use either filtered water or bottled spring water, and never straight out of the faucet. Trust me, you'll taste the difference. You know, unless you're using a well water, or, you know, you already have spring water coming out of your faucet, but very few people have that. I prefer filtered water. That's what I use. I actually have a water filter in my fridge that I fill up and I dump it from there, you know. But I know people that prefer pour overs, all sorts of things. I am not necessarily, I mean, I love a pour over. I just sometimes don't have the time for it. You know, I don't want to wait. You know, I just want to hit a button, grind the beans, pour that espresso, and move on with my day. It's changed. So I would say Rob Zombie has been our best over the course of the, contract. But right now, the newest launch that we just did with the Morbid podcast, they're doing very, very well too. But they all do pretty well. But I'm gonna have to say Rob is the top. But we also have 3 different coffees with him too. We have the House of 1,000 Corpses, the Dragula, and the Hellbilly Brew. So yeah, Rob has probably been our top seller. Face bags that we currently have, that art was on the front and back. That was all hand-drawn art from James Romano. So he does all the art for all their t-shirts and things like that. And we have a mutual friend, and he introduced me to James, and James's favorite slasher of all time is Ghostface. So I knew that he would want that project, right? So he did all that art is custom and done by him, and he did an incredible job. It looks fantastic. It's one of my favorite franchises. It's not necessarily my favorite horror movie, like by itself. Honestly, one of my favorite all-time horror movies ever is the original Pet Sematary. I love Blair Witch, the original Blair Witch Project, and the original Paranormal Activity. As far as pure fear goes, those are probably my top 3.